Hello and welcome. Another edition of our Coach's Corner each and every Thursday. Coach Dave Serrano and myself, we find our way to a college coach from around the country, all levels, all divisions, in hopes of being able to share insights, information, and hopefully a little education with regard to the sport of college baseball. And this week, I'm really excited because I've known our guest tonight since 2013 when he was at Richmond University. And, to me, it's one of the best life mentors and coaches in the sport of college baseball. Coach Matt Tyner from Towson University. Coach, thank you so much, Matt, for joining us today.
Well, I don't know if I can live up to that billing, but
I'll
give you the best I've got. How about that?
Okay. There you go. That's all I can ask for. That's all we can ask for as coaches is the best you got. So, I really want to start. You and I had a great conversation before we started the record button here today, and I really wanted to talk to you a little bit about your experience as a player because, I think this adds some foundation to who you are as a coach because you played for, Ron Frazier, who I consider to be one of the four on the Mount Rushmore of college baseball. And also, probably during your Team USA or summer days with Skip Bertman. But talk a little bit about you as a hitter, as a player at the college level, and how that kind of helped shape you as a coach today.
Well, it's funny that we'll start there, but let's go ahead. I'm originally from Decatur, Illinois, and way back in my era, your era, recruiting was done through snail mail. I mean, you would write a letter, and then the head coach would send you back a questionnaire, and then you would send it back to them, and it would take weeks. And you would always run to the mailbox to see if you got a recruiting letter or whatever. And I was not recruited. I played football and I played baseball in high school, and I was equally good at both of them. And I remember having a couple chances to go play football, but I really wanted to play baseball. And a friend of mine, very, very close friend, like my brother, Mike Melnick, and I were at a party. And just between me and you, might have had a beer or two and flipped a coin. We said Miami's heads, Arizona State's tails. Took a look at it. It was heads, Miami. So he and I went to Miami, and I became a walk-on. Coach Bertman, Skip Bertman, this was his second year at Miami, and he had convinced Coach Frazier that we needed to have a developmental squad so that the varsity could play against the developmental squad, and anybody that was on scholarship that wasn't good enough to start could be on this developmental squad. And not only would we play our team, but we would play the junior colleges around the greater Miami area, Dade North, Dade Downtown, Dade South. And we would just rotate that week after week after week. And who knew, that a couple guys might be good enough to make the Miami team. So there were 244 people down there when we tried out. I know because I counted them. And within 30 minutes, we were down to 100 because Bertman stood up there and said, hey, here's how this is going to go. If you're an outfielder and you can't run faster than a 7-flat 60, you're cut. If you're a shortstop and you can't run 7-flat or 60, you're cut. And I mean, there are guys just trying to do their best, man. I'm like praying to God, I break 7, I run a 6.8. I'm like, okay, great. These guys they're getting cut. They're getting sent home without even picking up a baseball. And I'm like, hey, this is the way this guy wants to do it. So this is the way we do it. So 11 guys get picked, and we become part of this freshman team, right? This whatever you want to call us. And we are supplemented with some of the guys that would be second or third tier on the varsity. And we start inter-squadding the varsity, and then we start traveling, and we build a little bit of a bond. And it's kind of crazy because, that I was then deemed a walk-on. And Walter, between me and you and a fence post, I've always had that mentality that nothing is entitled. You earn everything. And I have a soft spot for non-recruited kids that show up on your doorstep, and the next thing you know, they're playing for you, and I love that story. And then, as luck would have it, I played my freshman and sophomore year, and then it clicked my junior year, and I never came out of the lineup, and Coach Burtman was my biggest advocate. He just really thought I could play. And then as a senior, we turned it up, and I had 3 trips to the College World Series, sophomore, junior, senior year. And then I got drafted by the Orioles in the 9th round. And from walk on to draft in 4 years, that maybe that doesn't happen now, but man, what a neat life I've lived, and it was just super.
The thing, you gain perspective, through trials, tribulations within the sport. And that's a fascinating story, because so many parents are worried about being recruited, not being recruited, et cetera. And the harsh reality is college baseball is a tough sport, and unless you've lived it or you go and watch it on a regular basis with regard to practice and games, you really don't know how truly good that level of baseball is. So that's tremendous perspective for you as a coach. You and I kind of became acquainted when you were with Tracy, Coach Woodson at Richmond, and now as a head coach at Towson. How do you see the biggest differences in college baseball? Let's go with 10 years, but really over the last 5 years. And I'm not talking about name, image, and likeness and portal stuff. I'm just talking about the game itself, how it's been elevated to kind of more of a easily recognized or heavily marketed sport now at the college level.
Well, and I think you have another vertical silo that you talk about quite a bit. And, travel baseball is just as much as an asset as it is a detriment to the game. It's one of those needed necessaries, but if we don't watch out, it's going to ruin the game. So that in itself, some of these players are just phenomenal. I mean, at such a young age, it's incredible. And that's a tribute to the development that they've got playing other great baseball players, right? That we probably wouldn't get anywhere else. So you got that going for them. Kids have been introduced to strength and conditioning, and they've specialized in a sport that's based on repetition, so the talent is inching its way up. And people ask me all the time, hey, do you think you could play at this level? And my answer is, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I had a cannon. I ran 6'8". I hit for power, and some average, but 250, 260 is where I settled. That probably wouldn't even get it done now, So the talent level that we see at the collegiate level on a day in, day out basis, week in, week out basis, it's incredible. I sat in my dugout and I watched some of my guys, but I also watched the competitors that we are playing. And I'll give, accolades where they're due. And let me tell you, some of the people we play on the weekends, they're pretty good.
I guess. I mean, the big thing that I want you to expand upon here is your out of conference schedule is great, but your in conference. When I talk to parents and I say, every student athlete is, I think, been pre-programmed, Power 5, and I get it, and I think it's a great dream or goal, what have you. But college baseball across the board, as evidence, as you and I discussed earlier, Northeastern rolls into Clemson, sweeps. Now some of these new teams within your conference, the CAA, and I'd love for you to expand on it. Northeastern, they get an at-large bid. That's how good they've become. And then you have Campbell, and Justin Hare, and that's a really strong national program. So your conference has been elevated, and now you have to recruit according to your conference schedule.
We made a covenant with each other way back 7 years ago when I started to improve the power ranking of our conference and to really start looking at who we scheduled, how we scheduled, and really understanding the effects that, beating some teams are not as good as losing to others.
Amen.
And the name recognition also. And coming from the Burtman family and Frazier, where, we would play anywhere, anytime, anybody. Well, that's kind of the way I look at it also. Plus, don't you want to go play the big boys if you're a little guy? So that's, we only had 5.9 scholarships until this year. Next year we have 7.9, almost 8 scholarships. So now we can get out there and almost be competitive. But we had to build our recruiting model based off of our schedule. So I'm going to take you to play LSU. I'm going to take you to play Miami. I'm going to take you to play New Mexico State. I'm going to take you, play Florida Atlantic. I'm going to play North Carolina State. We're going to go play some people, Georgia Southern, all these teams that, that some have heard of, but they're pretty good, pretty competitive. And everybody else in our conference agreed, let's start supersizing our schedule. And what you've seen is a conference that's gone 12, 13, 14, 15th in RPI rankings, now down to as low as 5. We finished the year last year at 7. We were just a tick behind the Big Ten. Well, we've added Campbell this year. And you're right. Am I happy about that? For the conference, yes. For the competition, no. I mean, that guy, he's got a program, right? So I think they were set at like 12, 13, 14 all year.
All year.
So they've automatically strengthened us. And now we're jumping up there in the 6s and the 5s. And I'm like, that's great. And I tell these people this because of, my gosh, you guys need to take a look at the CAA and quit calling us a mid-major now. I mean, they're getting 20 guys drafted every year out of this conference. And, it's a pitcher's haven. And there's some, I mean, we played a couple guys that have just hit the baseball so hard the covers come off, and this is a no joke conference. And I would challenge people, come and watch the CAA play a conference schedule. When a number 4 seed, Hofstra, can come out of that 4 hole and win the CAA 2 years ago with last at bat wins in every tournament game, that's, to me, speaks volumes of how competitive. There might be a team that goes 20-7, but the team that's 14-13 is just as competitive. And I mean, the one ball bounces one way or the other, and it's a different outcome. So
you really have some, with Matt Tyner included, the coaching, you could make a legit argument that the CAAs, the head coaches, the assistant coaches, up and down, every team, those are quality coaching staffs that when I'm talking with parents, and your name is always in that list, you're looking for a mentor, somebody that knows the game, can feel the game, has an idea what it feels like, not only as a player, a coach, but as a parent. I mean, the CAA, top to bottom, literally, and I've been to a lot of games. I've watched Northeastern. I've watched Delaware. I talked with Greg for a long time. There's a lot of great coaches in that conference.
Here's a quick story. I used to be at Butler, and Greg was at Cincinnati, and PBR was just starting to roll, right? They're just starting to roll. So we're at this place called Prasco Park outside of Cincinnati, and we're the only 2 dudes there. It's 9 o'clock. It's 9:30. It's 10 o'clock, and nobody else is there. And I'm like, well, looks like it's us, babe. Slowly but surely they start to come rolling in. But I'm not saying that to toot my own horn, but I'm tooting his horn. That's the kind of coaches you've got in this league. We're not afraid to go turn over a big rock somewhere that somebody else wouldn't go. But you're right. Mike Glavin, Matt Sink, Mike McCrae, Ben Hall, Chad Holbrook,
right?
Randy Hood, Mike Kennedy. Come on, Greg Mantle. It just keeps growing, man. I'm in awe when I'm in the same room with those guys.
And the biggest thing is it's great pitching. I've literally watched a lot of games in the CAA, and the pitching is just phenomenal, And to me, it's a testament to the pitching coaches, the head coaches from a recruiting perspective. But I would like you to discuss with regard to your recruiting, and you mentioned 5.9 going up to 7, 9, 8 scholarships. How are you recruiting? Are you recruiting a lot of the same summer events? Are you doing more camps? How are you with regard to your portal JUCO and high school athletes?
I'll bring it full circle for you. So 2 years ago, we picked up a new athletic director, and he is a forward-thinking guy. And the first thing he did was, I'm going to try and get you some more money to recruit with. So he found a way to offset out-of-state tuition costs by coming up with what we call a black and gold scholarship for student athletes in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia, Delaware, DC. We were able to come up with an $8,000 package, which is roughly about 19%, which allowed us to stretch our recruiting dollars in those areas, which then in turn made it easier for us to stretch our in-state money here in Maryland. So we kind of drew our tentacles in and have for the last 2 years. I'll make the long distance run because I've got a bigger checkbook than my recruiting budget does. But my coaches are really kind of in this area, and we blanket it. I mean, we try to do the best job we can. There are great athletes in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, West Virginia, Virginia. And if we can get them to come to Towson, we feel pretty confident that we can become more competitive. This year, for the first year, we think we've got one of those pitching staffs that will play well in the CAA. And you spoke to it. I would hate to say it, but I'll go out on a limb and say this is a pitching conference.
Yes.
This is an arm strength. I mean, and you don't have to have the bullets, but you got to have somebody in there that's going to rush it up there 94 to 96.
Right.
You got to have somebody in that 91 to 93 range that can spin it and change speeds as well. And then, you know, as well as I do, at my level, I'm going to have a plethora of kids that are 86 to 91. Well, they better be able to spin it and change speeds. And most of all, throw strikes. And if they can do that, then we got a shot. And as rosters expand, if you've got one tool as a pitcher, if you've got a swing and miss pitch, you got a chance to pitch at this level. Now, you might not pitch a lot in terms of innings, but you might pitch a lot in terms of appearances. And I think that goes a long way if that's what you're looking for. So you mentioned it earlier, Power 5 versus someplace like the CAA. And here's my closer, if you would. Hey, dude, you got a choice. You can either go to a Power 5 and be a dude, or you can come to the CAA and you can be the dude.
Right.
What do you want to be? Because here's the deal. You're going to get one, maybe two opportunities at that P5 school, and then they're going to find somebody to take your spot. Here, you're going to have maybe a little bit longer leash. You know, you might get to play 5 games instead of 2. You might get 4 starts instead of 2 to show that you can really do this, which is called settling in. And the last time I looked, that's what you want, because you and I both know you don't get drafted on the bench, bro.
Hey, man. You know, the big thing that you and I were discussing earlier, and I really want parents to hear this. You know, we all hear about the portal, and we all think it's like this gravy train to the NIL, you know, mountain. And really, you know, the numbers, we hear about the successful transfers, but just talk about the portal as a whole, you know, with regard to a lot of times, the grass is not always greener. The pool is not always bigger, but a lot of student athletes don't have a happy ending. They don't have that, you know, joyous ride from, you know, previous school to the brand new school. It sometimes ends in no school at all.
Well, man, you've hit it on the nail head. And it is as I said to you before, the transfer portal is a great, it can be a great opportunity for a certain amount of players. But most of the time, what I see is somebody has given that kid bad intel.
Bad.
And they've either told him that he's better than he is, or for some reason the kid thinks the grass is going to be greener on the other side. You know, help yourself out. There's 600 kids get drafted. You think right out of the chute, if you think you're playing professional baseball, let me help you. You're not.
Right.
So that's the first hurdle, or the first realization you got to come to. Okay. Then after that, you got to figure out if this is really where you want to graduate from, and if it is, then don't delay it. Don't take on more debt. Don't defer, your degree seeking program. And the other thing is this: you've been given an opportunity at that institution to play baseball at whatever level you're at. That's not a gift. You don't have to do that. You get to do that. So think that transfer thing through before you go. And I shared with you, my team, if you ask any of my players, they will say, Coach Tyner will help me transfer if I come to him and say, I want to transfer, and here are the reasons why. And if he agrees with those reasons, he will help me transfer. But if he disagrees with those reasons, then I have to sit back and I have to talk to my parents, and we really need to have a meeting of the minds and figure this thing out.
Thank you.
That's first and foremost. The one thing I won't do is I won't help somebody that goes behind my back or my coaching staff's back, and then all of a sudden springs it and goes, boom, we're out. And here are the reasons why. And so I've already made my connection, and I'm going to XYZ. Well, then good luck. That's it. But make sure you have a good reason for transferring. And I shared with you, if a young man comes here and he does what he's supposed to do, hits 360, hits 17 home runs, drives in 65, and he's a sophomore and he wants to transfer, he wants to taste big time P5, I'll open up my Rolodex, and we'll find that kid a spot.
Which is pretty big, by the way. I mean, you have a big Rolodex. So, I mean, it's not like you can't pick up a phone and call somebody and say, hey, I got a guy and he can play.
Yeah, but you know what that coach on the other end of the phone is going to do? He's going to open up our software package called Synergy, and he's going to check it out and see if the kid really can play. So you can't hide.
Right.
And that's why these kids that go, I'm the fourth string catcher on XYZ, and I'm going to transfer, and I'm going to be your starter. Probably not.
Right.
Probably not. You need to stick it out of the fourth string and become the third and become the second and bust your way into the starting role. There's a little bit of hard work ahead of you, but at least you're on that team. You would be the fourth string. Good potentially, you'd be the fourth string catcher on my team.
Right.
So you got to watch this transfer portal noise that there's no reason we should have 4,000 kids in the portal.
Amen. Amen. I wish more people would hear that message. Can you talk a little bit about, I feel the biggest hurdle for student athletes, and obviously to some degree parents, is the fear of competition in this word development. They feel like, development just means you don't think I'm any good. And I try to explain to parents, when I was a coach, I had a young man that was a Division III All-American as a junior. As a sophomore, he was a conference all-second team. As a freshman, I think he pitched maybe 4 innings. And I always have a slide where I'll say to parents, if you knew you could have this as a junior, what would you say? Oh, yeah, sign me up for the All-American thing. That's a big, okay, sophomore year. Oh, yeah, all-conference. Boom, that freshman year. So can you talk about student athletes need to have that word patience, competitive nature, and the desire to develop not only physically but mentally, because that's really what college baseball is all about.
Well, you hit on the $64,000 question statement.
Good, I win that. All right.
I mean, we live in a society that looks for a silver bullet.
Right.
I mean, we hit reset, we hit repeat, replay, whatever it is, and expect that to be the answer. Well, we're in a game of failure that just chews you up and spits you out, man. So the mental side of it is probably the side that has the most gracious long-term effect on all of us. Because if you can sustain yourself throughout the course of your baseball career, it's going to provide a great basis for you regarding real life. And if you choose to leave it, if you choose to quit it, then you're going to quit other things. And that's not just me, that's Bertmanisms. That, you quit baseball, you'll quit every other thing you ever try to do. right? So it's a challenging game where 3 out of 10 is super success, right? I mean, that's phenomenal.
Right.
So when you go to a spot, when you go there, if you're a Power 5 player, you're probably going to be asked to contribute as a freshman. Well, there's probably a reason why you're there anyway, right? There are very few walk-ons or non-recruited guys at Power 5 schools. Now, I didn't say there's not roster guys or not team guys that are there, right? That might be playing somewhere else, but they wanted to go there. That's where they see their future. So they're gaining knowledge, they're gaining experience just by showing up every day, right? For the player that comes here, he may be a tick under the radar. And that's where he gets an opportunity to grow. And from a coaching perspective, here and any place that I've ever worked, I've always said, hey, yes, what does he look like now? But let's get him in our strength and conditioning program. Let's get him into more than 75 swings a day of quality swings, more than 50 reps of quality ground balls, more than 30 to 40 to 50 reps of fly balls. I don't know about you, but if you've run 60-yard sprints trying to catch a fly ball and you do it 30 times, you're gassed.
Gassed, right.
Right? So there's only so much you can do on an individual basis in regarding to development on a daily basis, but it's putting it on there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, where you start, okay, now what's that guy look like his sophomore year? And that's what happened to your boy. He went from a good player as a freshman to an all-conference player as a sophomore to an All-American as a junior and a draft pick as a senior. That's called development. Is that the benefit? I mean, is that the product of the coaches? Partial. Is that the product of the player? Partial. Is that also the product of the strength and condition? You betcha. Is it also the product of the nutritionalist? You betcha. Maybe the kid figured it out that he actually needed 8 hours of sleep instead of 6 and 2 more hours at the party store. So I mean, all
right.
of those things start to come in, and I think that's what this game has a chance to teach our men. To go, boy, this is a challenge day in and day out. I have to be ready if I really want to play on a daily basis. Okay, well, mentality. How do I do that? And I think of my spring training roommate, Billy Ripken, when I think of that, when he goes, hey, I was the biggest cheerleader on the stand, in the dugout, on the steps, because when I got my chance, I wanted you to cheer for me too.
And
so mentally, he was ready to go,
right.
And I just think sometimes people bypass the opportunity to go to a place and develop and get bigger and potentially open the doors to whatever, and they go to some place where their development might get thwarted. It really might get thwarted. So I hope that our listeners really think about that when we talk about, hey, do I want to go be a dude or do I want to go be the dude? And really start giving programs like mine, like UNCW, like College of Charleston, like Elon, like NCA&T, like Northeastern, Stony Brook, all of these CAA schools. Oh my God, this is some good baseball, man.
That's some really good baseball. I mean, you just rattled off arguably a bunch of schools that are in the top 40 in the country year in and year out. And that's really the reason why I wanted you to be on, because I think a lot of parents and student athletes are so pre-programmed, whether it's through social media or what have you, with we have to go there or here. There's so much great baseball, and that's why we really, Coach Serrano and myself, want to share that with families. And the lesson that I take from you with regard to not only current student athletes, but the high school athlete that is dreaming about college baseball, is you have to pursue, you have to be persistent, and you want to persevere. And so when you try to tell athletes, it's an ebb and a flow, it's a peak and a valley. There are never just straight lines in anything to do in life, let alone baseball. And so you epitomize that as far as the passion, the passion within the sport. I'd like you to just kind of share in closing, what type of advice or what piece of advice would you give in light of the new recruiting rules? You get all these 26s and 27s. They're like in the stable saying, hey, we used to be recruited and now nobody talks to us. Do we go to the camps? Do we wait until August 1st? What advice would you give to those younger high school athletes that are kind of biting at the dirt saying, we want to be recruited? How would you best like to see them prepare to be a potential college student athlete at Towson?
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity, because
sure.
I'm gonna give it to you.
Good. That's what we want.
I'm gonna give you the Tyner effect right now.
Amen. Preach.
So most of these kids that are that age are on some type of travel team, and they're probably going all over the country, or at least regionally, to play their weekend sports. How many of those guys are taking a look at every one of the universities and colleges in the area that they travel to? I mean, a physical look. You go take a peek at whatever school it may be, and you find out if it's appealing to you or not. Now, I don't know about you, but I could probably take a look at 15 girls and go, I'm attracted to 2, and I'm not attracted to 2, and the other 11, okay, maybe. You know what I mean? And we go from there. Maybe I have to take a second look. Well, that's kind of how I tell these young kids to do this. Let's go take a look. If it's stone and you don't like stone, then you ain't going there. If it's brown brick and you don't like, if it's drab, you're not going there. Go look at the field. Well, my high school is better than that. Well, then that's going to be a downer when you get there, right? So you're probably not going there. So start taking advantage. Hey, you don't play till 6 o'clock? What are you doing at 10 o'clock? Get off the video game. Go take a ride with your mom and dad. They're there. Get them away from the pool and let's go see this college. Let's go see that college. Hey, let's sign up, take a tour. I don't need the college coaches to tour me. I want to see what happens on behind, because I only get the college coach for 3 hours a day, max 4, right? So all those things, you can do that on your own. That's first. Second is, hey, what's really driving you to a baseball related decision? Well, there are 3 things, right, that you better be able to check the box to. First and foremost, you introduced yourself and met me when I was at Richmond. Part of the fun of Richmond was being able to look a guy like you in the eye and go, hey, Mr. Beede, your son just made $120,000 for the next 4 years. He just made $30,000 a year. How does that make you feel? Great. Okay, that's the good news. Guess what the bad news is? You owe 160.
Right.
Uh-oh. What did I just do? Well, honey, we're going to take out a second mortgage. Well, and most of the people that I talk to could swing it. Could I? No, babe. I couldn't swing it. So I applaud those people that prepared, that got themselves in a situation to handle the schooling of their offspring. That's phenomenal. But that's a big box. Why are you looking at Richmond if you can't afford it? Why are you looking at this if you can't afford it? Come on, let's have that tough conversation with Junior right now that says, yeah, we can maybe get you there, but we can't afford to fly you back and forth from the East Coast to the West Coast every year and pay $10,000 for that. I mean, come on. We're not made of money, So that conversation has to be made, right? And then this is the biggie. And this really does chat me sometimes, Walt, because it has to be an academic fit. I mean, an academic fit. I'm not talking about something where, I'm going to go there, and if they don't have what I got, then I'm going to do. Okay. All right. Really? So I'm going to go to XYZ University. I want to be an engineer, but I can't. I'm going to go study language. And then when I'm done, I'm going to go, no, man, come on, really? Let's not do that. And that's where I look at the parents and go, what are we doing? What are we teaching our children? No, let's go learn something. Because here's 4 years of an opportunity for you to not only mature on a baseball field, but you to mature in a classroom and really give you a strong foundation for success in your life. Take advantage of it, man. Please take advantage of it. So find an institution that offers what you want to study so that you feel like you're moving forward for professional and personal development. And then lastly, athletics. Go find a place where you feel comfortable playing. And how do you do that? Well, you got to come to my camp. You got to go to your camp. You got to go to one of those schools that you happen to tour that you kind of liked, that you needed some closure on. You got to go to that camp. You got to go to Dave Serrano's camp when he was at Tennessee. You got to go there. And you got to see me. See this? This is what you get Monday through Sunday.
What you see is what you get.
That's it. I ain't pulling no punches. I'm way too old, man. My career's on the downward. So if I'm not looking to go to USC, I'm trying to build the hell out of Towson.
Right.
So this is it. You can either help me, you can hurt me, or we can go somewhere in the middle. I'll take somewhere in the middle to help, but you need to find out what that coach is like. If he's just sat back there looking on his phone during the camp, that's a moneymaker camp. He ain't recruiting. He ain't writing anything down. He's not. You waste your time. But you found out you didn't want to play for him either.
Right.
You found out you didn't want to play for him. So those are some things that you can be doing. Now, national camps, if you're a talent, go. Definitely go. And you know what talent is. You see it on the weekends. You see it on Thursdays and Friday when you play yourself. Or if you just want to go experience it and then maybe come back later, okay, go do that, because there's nothing wrong with gaining a base of knowledge, right? The recruiting services, yeah, there's so many good things you can work for. But the last thing I'll say is this. You have to be realistic. I sat in a grandstand of scouts this past scout day for us. And I said, gentlemen, what's it take to get drafted as a position player nowadays? Everybody's head just went down. They're like, oh God, the old man's going to put me on the spot. Right. I said, yo, I said, I still want to know, tell me what you got, and then finally one guy spoke up and he goes, we got 20 rounds now, right? I go, yeah. He goes, okay. He goes, how many guys are on a roster? And I said, 25 active in the big leagues. And he goes, yeah. He goes, how many of those guys are pitchers? I said, over half. He goes, yep, that's right. So far, so good. He goes, so what do you think we spend 65 to 70% of our drafts on? I said, pitching. He goes, okay, great. Figured it out so far? I said, no, need help. He goes, well, let's just say that we say 70. 70% of 20 is 14. That means we've got 6 spots left. He goes, so for position players, we have 6 spots out of 20 times 30. So what we got, 180 players? 180 players to 200 players are going to get drafted in positions. He goes, now to make sure you're realistic, what are we doing in the Caribbean right now? And I said, well, you've probably got your own academy down there. That's correct. And what are we doing down there? I said, you're probably signing those guys that are in your academy and bringing them up. And he goes, that's correct. So how many position players do I really need? And I said, man, thank you so much. I'm going to go tell my guys the same thing, because as we know, this game ends sooner or later. And what I just said was be realistic. There is nothing wrong with going to the World Series in Appleton, Wisconsin for the Division III national title, and you taking that ring and putting it on your finger. When I won the conference at Bellarmine, when we were Division II and went to the regional and lost to Grand Valley State in the bottom of the 8th in a true regional championship game, I couldn't have been more proud of Division II baseball in my life. It was phenomenal. It's the game. It's not the level, right? I got 70-year-old dudes playing pickup softball right now that are playing it with reckless abandonment because they just want to play. They want to win. Well, hey, fellas, here's the deal. When the game quits being as fun as it was when you were a 10-year-old on your way to Dairy Queen to get the ice cream cone afterward, quit. Give it up. This is a fun game. It doesn't have to be you're going to play professional baseball. It might end for you at college. Make it all it can be now. So,
if there's ever been a coach that has delivered a more powerful message, I have yet to hear it. There's not been one person that I have spoken to in over a decade that has not clearly, really, truly, passionately made the case that all parents and student athletes, if you've heard anything in this discussion with Coach Tyner, those last 5 minutes were absolute platinum. It does not get any clearer. It does not get any better. It does not get any more passionate than that. It's the sport. It's not the destination. It's the game. It's in here. It's something that will never leave you. You go from a player, a student athlete, to a parent. You have a child. It's the baton of the sport, and there's nobody that epitomizes passion for the sport of baseball more than Matt Tyner. And I'm telling you right now, the whole reason we do this is so parents can see, hear, and get a sense for who a coach is. And if there ever is a mentor, a true mentor for the sport of baseball, I don't care about high school, college, travel, professional, it's Coach Tyner. This is a true baseball lifer, but this is a baseball man. And so, Matt, I have to tell you, I knew you were going to be good, but if I had any idea you're going to be this good, I would have had you guys like every week. I'd just have you join me, because not only did you absolutely put the icing on the cake, but you literally summed up this whole process. This whole process is not about money and portals and name, image, and life. It's about a game. It's about a passion. When you ride your bike with the bat on the handlebars and your glove off to one of the sides, and you pull up and you hope there's a few guys at the ballpark. That's baseball. That is what baseball is. And until they take the uniform off your back, you should be loving every minute you get to put on a pair of spikes and, kind of saddle up and go ride that baseball pony, because it does end. And when you are done, heck, I'm 61. I'm going to be playing over 60 baseball, and I still love it. I still get a kick out of it, and I still get passionate about playing catch with my kid. So I hope parents are paying attention. Matt, I can't thank you enough for just being you. I mean, just being able to share a part of who you are, what your program is all about. I guarantee you, your social media is going to blow up, and your email box is going to blow up. I'm going to put all of that in there. How would you like people to contact you? You want video? You want transcripts? What do you look for when you get that introductory email?
We really like video. I mean, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and we break it down as best we possibly can. I take a look at it. The position coach takes a look at it. We've got a director of analytics that breaks it down. And then we go in search of, we go to, if we really like what we see, we go try and find archived video footage of you, and then we start cross-referencing. And then if we have some interest, we actually try to invite people to our camps. Our recruiting budget's not like, Clemson or anybody else. I mean, we bootstrap it. So we do recruit from our camps, and, we've had some really good success getting kids to our camps and letting us take a bird's eye view of them. And then they also get a bird's eye view of our campus. And that's important to us because, as I mentioned to you before, it's got to be a good fit. We want a win-win experience for everybody involved because of this. It takes a village to run a Division I program that's not completely fully funded. So when I get your kid, I also get you, mom and dad. And moms and dads at my level here have been phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. They run their dugout club. They supplement dinners. They take us here. They do this for us. I couldn't do this without them. There's no way. So we recruit family. I know that sounds as corny as possible.
No, that's the real deal.
But it is, and I mean, and of course we bring some people along for the ride. We have to, because not everybody's financially able to contribute. Now we understand that, but I'm a good old Catholic boy. Time, talent, or treasure. You got one of those three you can give me, so let's make it work, and somehow, some way we get it done. So I'll close by this, man.
Sure.
You hit it on the nail head, and we talked about it before. In life, man, we sometimes we get caught up in that word entitlement, right? And we just should kind of push the brakes on that word alone, because we don't have to do anything except pay taxes and die. Oh. Everything else we get to do. We choose to do what we do. We choose. So if you choose to do something, then do it with all you got. Amen. Right? And earn your keep. Earn your keep. I mean, I was content being an assistant coach. Here's your trivia question. I'll win you a beer at the next. I don't drink anymore, but I'll win you a beer. You know who the oldest living first-time hire Division I baseball coach was?
I'm going to go with Matt Tyner for 200, Alex.
There you go. 58 years old. First time ever. So, I'm still pitching out there, man. I still got to earn this. Somebody was kind enough to give me a chance. And do I want to end up in Omaha every year? That's my goal.
Right.
Am I realistic that, man, I got a lot of hurdles to go through to get there? But yes, that's my goal. Let's get to Omaha. I got there 3 times as a player. I'd love to go back as a coach, So that's it. Remember, we don't have to do this. We get to do this. This is amazing, man. Thanks for having me.
Choose, don't chase. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a student athlete or you're a parent and you did not get fired up after listening to Coach Tyner, I mean, you better check the pulse and make sure everything's working properly, because if I still had eligibility left, or I had any eligibility at all, I'd be running to Towson State, because that's a life mentor that you want to surround and put into your student athlete's life. I'm going to have all of of Coach Tyner's information in the description, whether it's the podcast or the video, and all the video clips. We'll have the email address, the social media profile, everything and anything to do with Towson State baseball we will have. Matt, thank you so much. I wish you a tremendous 2024 season and beyond. You, sir, are truly one of the game's best at your level in your profession, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks very much, Walter. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.